You have reached Imperial Reviews, and today's recap is from Season 3, Episode 2. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. Let's get into it. So, at the end of last week's episode, it ended with Boyd and Tien Chan locked in the barn with the Nightcrawlers. And Tien Chan was ripped to pieces in front of Boyd. They made him watch for torture to try to break him. So, those of us that follow this series online that might have been commenting out there, we kind of will hope that Boyd might have been dreaming. It was a dream sequence he was witnessing, but it wasn't. So, this episode starts off with Jade and Victor in what's considered like the bar area, where Jade was with all the crisscross wire. And he was in there with the sheep and the goat with Victor. And Victor kind of told him, don't go out there. And he pretty much said, I have to. And so he got out and went to the barn where Boyd was. And he got to see that Tien Chan really was ripped to pieces. And when he came in, Boyd was speaking in Cantonese, which was the language of Tien Chan and Kenny. And he just kept speaking in Cantonese. And you don't know what he's speaking at first. You find out later in the episode. But Jay pretty much asked him, like, where's the key? Where's the key? He said they left it in the pocket. So the Nightcrawlers are incredibly strong, incredibly evil, and have the intuition to want to break Boyd's spirit. So how do you beat some entity like that? So I'm pretty sure this is the season where, even though we've seen that blood that Boyd had killed one of them, we're gonna find something else that hurts them. They're gonna change the odds if they got to stay in this town or whatever. So it's gonna be interesting how this season plays out. From there, you had Tabitha wake up where she was with Victor's dad. She fell asleep. When she fell asleep, well, she passed out in front of Victor's dad's porch. And so when she came to, Victor's dad was sitting there with a gun. And he pretty much had already called the police. And he wanted her, well, like, what's your story? My kids went missing over 20-something years ago, some odd years ago, and more than that, I said 20-something, just several years ago. It was more than 20 years because Victor's looking old himself. So my kids, because they was kids when they was several years ago, they went missing, and you show up with the lunchbox that my son had. How did you get it? So basically, she's telling him her story. He like, well, get to the point where how you get the lunchbox. And she's telling how you got the lunch. Victor gave it to her, basically saying he's a nice man and her son loves him. And she's telling her whole story, but he's looking at her like, yeah, right, this lady's a Looney Tune. It wasn't until she said she was having visions of seeing these children that they looked like they needed help, and they had to be released from the tower. When she said that, that resonated with him, because back in the days when his family, his wife was saying the same thing. She was seeing visions, and she said she had to do that. So that's when later in the episode the cops came, and she's like, don't tell him on me. And he pretty much apologized to the cops to throw him off. And then that he started to believe there's some truth to what she's saying. So she also had him go online, and she named her name, and it shows her family went missing. She looked Boyd Stevens. It's a missing thing for him. So she's naming a bunch of people who online is different parts or wherever they're showing missing. But she's saying they're all in that town, this small town, or whatever. So the scene skips to at the hospital. Sarah shows up at the hospital to get the town's doctor, tell her that Tien Chan was killed last night. She's there with her girlfriend, and she know how devastating that's going to be to Kenny, because Kenny already lost his dad in season 1. Now in season 3, he's losing his mom. So that's going to be terrible for him. She understands that, especially when the dad died at the hospital. So from there, it shows Boyd walking with Jim. Well, not Jim, walking with Jade, with Tien's body on like a wheelbarrow. The townspeople coming out to see. Snow outside. Boyd has a bloody shirt. Everybody's just looking, murmuring stuff. It shows the cow that the night crawlers slit their throat. Victor's on the porch hiding, peeking out. He's terrified, so he's in the porch basically saying this town is bad. Everybody I know just keeps dying. Keep in mind, Tien Chan opened up her house to Jim and his family, and she was really close with the kids and stuff like that. So they took Tien Chan to the church, and so just a very sentimental moment. Especially, this is gonna be real sentimental, because you know how much Kenny felt towards his parents, and all he had was his mom, and his bond with him and the mom. She shouldn't have been out there, but this is for the storyline, or whatever. She shouldn't have been out there at that time. And so from there you had Kenny and what's his name? Kenny and Jim, where they was hiding out at. Remember they was way out in the forest somewhere. They bunkered for the night in a cabin that was well bit. They used the emblem thing to weed off the night crawlers, and they, of course, they had the fire to keep warm overnight. So they bunkered there, and what happened with them when they got out? Jim had got out and started walking. Kenny was still sleeping. Jim pretty much yelled at Kenny, and when Kenny came where he was at, along the lake, there was plants and food and everything. And I think this season, if I recall with the trailers, they're gonna meet a whole new group that's been living on that living in that town as well. So I think these crops that we see are crops from the other people that's been living there, because these cabins are well built, and they have like these little voodoo like stick figure doll things posted up, and I think that's the weed off the nightcrawler. So I think they're going to meet another group of people that's been living in this town as well, just on a different side. And so Jim snatches food. They're headed back to the town to tell the rest of the people they found food or whatever. And I think this was supposed to take place in the storyline of this season. However, we all know once Kenny get to town, he's gonna find, the news. So what happens is Donna comes out and said, "Boyd, is it true?" And Boyd and Donna, Donna's character in this series she's grown on to a lot of people, and I'm pretty sure she has a fan base. You love her character, and she has the character of Carol from The Walking Dead. Like, Carol had a slow start, and then Carol developed a fan base. This kind of how I correlate Donna's character too. Nevertheless, her and Boyd's going back and forth. She's really not mad at Boyd, but she's mad at the situation that no food, people dying. She kind of was faulting Boyd for going after the animals at first, because their lives was worth more. So Boyd's response basically was I supposed to just let the animals just run off in the forest somewhere, and then we don't have no food. Everybody be starved. So Donna pretty much was saying we would figure it out. So they pretty much had the back and forth, and then she apologized. Basically, like, she not mad at him. He had to do what he had to do, and she understood that. And so then it went to Fatima. She's having morning sickness, but on top of morning sickness, she's having it like excessive morning sickness, and her tooth fell out. So she was trying to um, uh, well, boy's son pretty much shut him away, and he like, come on, I'm getting concerned. So when her tooth fell out, she was like, we need to go see the doctor. And they head to the doctor. Of course, she's out at this time. She's went to go see Tien Chan, and her girlfriend was there. Her girlfriend was there, and the girlfriend began to state, I was basically, we know she was in the medical field too, but she's a junkie. Plus, she went through that whole thing last season with the Nightcrawlers taking over. So they was kind of looking like, I don't know if we want you to be. But she come from a pediatrician background. So she looked over Fatima, pretty much said Fatima is malnourished, and she has a bad case of the morning sickness or whatever, because Fatima hasn't eaten in a few days, and uh, it's not that she didn't try to eat. She can't keep anything down. So, which is bad. It's because we all know that the food has been scarce, and we also know that the crops has been bad. And so, when Fatima gets back to town, get back to the house, her boyfriend pretty much, she said, you need to go, your dad's having a bad day, go show some respect to him, or whatever. So he's like, you gonna be okay? She said, yeah. Now what happens is when Fatima gets on the porch, some people that were in the house, they're sorting out the bad crops that they can salvage, and pretty much they're um, taking the crops and throwing them away. They should just throw it all away if they were bad, but they were trying to salvage some. Nevertheless, they had a whole basket of crops, and that could have been bad crops, and I think it's going to be bad crops. And Fatima pretty much looked at it, and she sniffed it, and then she just started going crazy on it, like she was possessed, and it could have just been that she was just crazy hungry, but basically this looks like she's eating a bunch of bad crops, and that's going to make her have a miscarriage or something. That's what it just seems like it's going to into, and that's going to make her go into a mental spiral. It's going to, just one bad take after another. So it goes to Boyd and the doctor having a conversation, and he's blaming himself, and pretty much she's telling him what he told her in season 1, that it's not her fault, and that she's gonna save a bunch of other people. She just can't save everybody. So she's just reminding him that, did you tell me that, and would you BSing with that, or was that truth? And so uh that's what took place with that. So in comes Kenny and Jim, and everybody surrounded. They know something's happened. Jim right off the back said, where's my kids? Boys said they're fine. And then Kenny's looking around, well, I'm seeing everybody else, where's my mom? So he like, mom, and they like, Kenny, wait, we should go talk, which one? He like, no, what's up? So he said, no, be quiet, leave me alone. So he's calling out for his mom. Of course, she doesn't come out or nothing. So he's telling everybody, chill, wait. So it's a real dramatic moment with Kenny get the understanding that his mom was killed or whatever. So he steps off and he goes to the diner. We all know that's where his mom used to work at. The doctor pretty much said, I'm gonna go after him. And she goes into the diner after him. And of course he's upset, and he had somebody was in the diner leaving some flowers because they know that's where Tien Cham she did the cooking, and she said I'm sorry, and so he was upset, crying, and then the doctor came in and she basically he said I just need time, I just need time, I just need time, and so she stood apart and she went over in a corner, and then he pretty much was coming to grips with it, and he said that he remembered what his dad looked like when they tore his dad apart. He can't see his mom like that. So he asked her, could she go and pretty much clean his mom up so he didn't have to remember her being all tore up like that. So her mission was now to get back to the church, and Jade helped assist her with cleaning Tien Cham up and making her suitable to have the funeral. And they would have the funeral there, and then all they just basically showed just her from her head up, and put some makeup on her and everything so she could look presentable or whatever. So very dramatic, emotional moments with Kenny and his mom, the funeral. So you have Victor pretty much doing he doing a Houdini act. He pretty much said everybody's dying. Ethan, because Ethan and Julie had a moment, and Ethan was pretty much, hey, I want to take her. She gonna be all right. She gonna be all right. I'm gonna take her the sweater she like. And then Julie was like, no, Ethan. So Victor came and pretty much grabbing his stuff, said, I'm leaving. They said, no, Victor, you can't leave. And he said, everybody's dying, so I gotta go. So Victor left out. And then when Jim finally came in his house with Julie and Ethan, Julie had a heart-to-heart basically saying, their brother Thomas that passed away, the mom was going through her thing, the dad was in his own world. She had to be there for Ethan, and she was only 15. Now, fast forward, the mom is missing. The dad is still on his mission, like, I'm trying to find your mom, but you leaving your kids need you more. So she basically, Julie saying, I can't do this again. I don't have the mental capacity to do this. You need to get your stuff together so you could be more of a figure for your kids, more or less for Ethan. I don't want to have that role again. She grabbed her stuff and walked out, and then Jim just was like, okay. So it went back to in the real world with uh, um, Victor's father and Tabitha, and he was showing his kids' room, still like they left it several many years ago. And so Tabitha pretty much was like, well, what you showing me this for? Like, I understand it, but what you showing me this for? I still don't understand why I was sent back here. And he said, well, that's probably why I was in the basement. So he takes her to the basement, and he said, during that time before my wife and kids disappeared, my wife was having visions and talking a bunch of different stuff. And so when he said that, he said she was doing a lot of drawing. So pretty much at the beginning and intro where we see all those drawings and stuff, it's basically all these drawings down in the basement and more. And she was looking at all the drawings that the wife was seeing, all these she was seeing the vision of all these things that was happening, and with the watchtower and everything like that. So, or the light tower and everything. So at the end picture that she got to see was the picture of the little boy that everybody keeps seeing. Ethan was seeing, Victor sees, that helped him, and pretty much she's seen in the real world. And it's the picture of the little boy in all white. So, it's gonna be more to with that little boy's backstory, his significance, and I think I covered all the bases. Ethan went to go see. Uh, he had a moment with Donna, and Donna was pretty much, she went to grab the cow that they slit his throat and took before the meat became tainted. just pretty much try to salvage what she can from the cow. Ethan came to talk for a little bit, but then, you know, Donna was in her own world, but then she realized this is a kid, it's not his fault. Then when she tried to console him, pretty much he was like, I'm okay, I'm leaving. I'm going back down to town. And so he left. And then it had a moment with Boyd and Kenny having a one-on-one. And, you know, another emotional moment. Mom just passed. And so Kenny pretty much asked, did she suffer? And then Boyd got quiet and he pretty much said, well, how did you know, or whatever? And then Boyd said, they made me watch. They forced me to watch. And then, you know, he broke down. And then, you know, of course, Boyd embraced Kenny like a big brother, and gave him an embrace man hug. You know, he's a broken man right now. What's going to be interesting if Tien Chan becomes a Nightcrawler out there to try to get try to get Kenny. At some moment, there's a moment where the Nightcrawler version of Tien Chan plays on Kenny's mind to try to get him to just join them so they could kill him. That's going to be interesting if that plays out. So the funeral happens, and of course everybody is upset. Sarah is not at the funeral, but she lives across the street from the church. She's still banned from the group. They don't accept her for the stuff she did. So Julie goes and talks to her, and goes and talks to her, and pretty much Sarah pretty much said, if you ever need someone to talk to, basically I'm here for you. And Julie just said thank you real fast and just stepped off. The episode ends with Jim back at the house. And remember when they in last season, when they was digging all that underneath the house and all that, they seen that the wires in the house didn't go to nothing. The wires was just hanging underneath the house or whatever. So while Jim's in the house, the phone rings. And when he picks up the phone, there's some type of static. And when he hears the voice, it's the voice of his deceased son, Thomas. And so, of course, that's going to freak Jim out. But, you know, Jim could go crazy and really start believing there. So it was the voice of his dead son, Thomas. And that was the episode. So a decent episode of dramatic episode, and RIP to Tien Chan, Kenny's mom. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. Till next time.